A natural disaster, what FEMA is warning about.
The only person making an accusation that people are not getting what they've asked for is Trump, falsely claiming that the administration is withholding resources because of political affiliation. That is just not true.
Hurricane Milton victims in Florida may have been denied help for being Trump supporters. A FEMA official has now been fired for telling relief workers to bypass homes with Trump vans campaign signs.
They then turn around and go, see, FEMA's not coming to help you because it's a Republican area. And then people go, see? No, not see. You've got to see for the first time in your life if you're MAGA. Donald Trump is a con man using you as his mark. Donald Trump's a ridiculous, pathetic liar.
Well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is facing major backlash after confirming reports that a supervisor ordered disaster relief workers to avoid homes with Trump yard signs.
What would you say to people propagating misinformation about the emergency response to these storms?
Stop politicizing FEMA.
Elon Musk is hopping about the country, spewing and tweeting political falsehoods and attacking FEMA while claiming his desire to help the hurricane victims with free Starlink access to the internet.
Donald Trump is literally putting lives at risk right now. If you can't trust FEMA and trust basic weather reports, for example, which he's questioned in the past.
Elon Musk, the richest man in the world and top Trump ally, has also pushed lies about the hurricane to his millions of followers on the social media platform he owns.
It never happened.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, we finally got news from a FEMA worker that the person that is, that left, that got fired, because there is actually knows that she was actually fired this time, saying that this was not an isolated incident, this was not discrimination, this is constantly happening. Well, unfortunately, this is the case. This was what's happening, and she pretty much blatantly says it, that yeah, FEMA, all of us, we do this. This is a thing. So whenever there was a Trump supporter sign or flag or what have you, we just avoided it because they tend to be more hostile. She went on the Roland Martin podcast, which is probably the biggest bloody idiot unimaginable. So he's definitely not going to be biased, and all that great stuff. So you are going to get directly into this and showing you guys on how insane and corrupt the FEMA organization is, and how the organization should be abolished and then something take its place, because this is not an organization that should ever be in America at all, period.
Because the Daily Wire said there was a whistleblower who made this point. Go ahead.
I was notified after I demobbed. The next morning they told me verbally I was fired, but they never provided me anything in writing stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports. They will substantiate what is happening to us in the field.
Vote for Kamala. I'm nonpartisan. FEMA did not give me fairness. They violated their own values. They know homes are being skipped due to political hostile encounters. So when you say you didn't vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, did you not vote at all in this election?
Correct.
They say you skipped the homes. And so when you talk about the incident reports, have you released those publicly? Have you released the report saying this is where I notified FEMA executives of these particular homes and how they were hostile to our workers?
So I have not relinquished any reports. And any time that we relinquish reports, we do not state specific homes due to PII. What we do is we discuss community trends. So if we are noticing, for example, on Mary Street, you'll find 3 or 4 homes that we tried to canvass and we were greeted with unwelcomed arms, or people are coming out guns blazing or he's screaming at us, then that's a street we need to avoid altogether.
This was a text message that you sent us where one of the folks out there said, "Good morning, LeGros Road is politically hostile. We are not canvassing this street any further. Moved on to North Lakeview Road. Great decision. Thanks for the update."
Exactly. So my senior leadership was aware of the amount of encounters that was going on in the field. Again, this was my second time and a second crew in Florida and experiencing unwelcomed behavior from the residents. Now, not all Floridians have been unpleasant, but for the most part, the ones that are very passionate about their disdain for FEMA, they have no problem expressing it.
So walk us through this. You also sent us this, and it says how it works. Purple paint marks. Property owners can paint vertical lines of purple paint on trees or posts along the perimeter of their property. It said why it's important for safety, clear boundaries, avoiding accidents. The purple paint clearly communicates that entry onto the land is prohibited without permission, reducing the risk of trespassing-related confrontations. So explain to us what this means, what this is.
It means they can shoot you. If they don't have the sign up that says that they will shoot you, purple rocks and painting of trees means that you are likely to be shot. It means you are unwelcome. Do not come.
So
and they mean that by FEMA is very well aware of the incidents that take place, not just with my crew, but with all of the crews in the state that's declared. And instead of just saying, hey, this is how we're going to mitigate it to protect our people, they decided to fire me and make sure Donald Trump knows that they are loyal to him because they fear retribution. The important thing is here, once we start seeing a trend, for example, if they just so happen to have these Trump campaign signs in front of their home, and that's the characteristic that's coming along with that, we have to proceed with precaution. So avoidance first and then de-escalation. And that's the thing. Our superiors know that. We have constant conversations about keep your people safe. If your people are uncomfortable, then just don't go.
So explain.
So that's what she's saying here. So she actively has said that they are actively discriminating against the Trump supporters, right? And that it is not of the wise decision because they're usually the most aggressive people. They're mostly, hey, they show their disdain for FEMA. Now, I won't say that you should go and attack people, but I do understand that a lot of disdain for FEMA is warranted. You guys were late 2 weeks to the actual thing, after the tragedy happened. You only gave $750 to the people, which is nothing in this current economy right now. And then you guys also proceeded to spend millions and millions of dollars on illegal immigrants, and it caused a whole other slew of issues. So I could understand why people's disdain is, not really wanted. But that doesn't mean you go out and discriminate against political opponents or anybody with a political nature at all. And it's like, okay, pretty much what you're saying is we're going to avoid all the Trump houses because by a trend they're deemed as hostile, but all the Harris signs and stuff like that, yeah, we're gonna go see them, right? And there's even some validity to your actual argument here, because for all we can hear is that it could be actually hearsay on how violent they are. But despite whether how violent they are, doesn't mean you avoid every Trump house, because it doesn't mean every Trump person is this type of person or type of people that are violent. And Rhoda Martin seems to go into a further depth here on going on saying like, okay, did you not actually discriminate against these people because of the violence and stuff like that? So we're going to show that to you guys here.
That if your team is uncomfortable and they do not feel safe, do not go to those homes. Go and canvass the other homes. Your job is to keep these people safe. They need to be able to go back home safe.
Okay, so now I have to ask this because, again, I use the example, 20 homes on the street, 8 of the homes have Trump signs, and they face hostility from three of those homes, which means there are 17 homes left.
Right.
So
we will canvass the ones that do not have the community trend with the Trump campaign's signage and let it go. If any of those residents come outside that have the Trump campaign signage and they say, hey, I want to register, we'll welcome them arms. We will let you register. Great, wonderful. But we will not subject our people to continuous verbal abuse or hostile encounters.
So
that's not what we do.
That's what I need to know. So, but again, though, this is what I'm trying to understand here. If there are 20 homes on the street, 8 have Trump signs, and you encounter hostility from 3, how do you then, and if you say, I'm moving on from this street, well, what happens to the other 17 homes on that street?
So the ones that do not have the trend, you got to watch what you're saying, because you're saying the ones without the Trump campaign signage. If those are the ones that we have experienced the consistent hostility from, then those are the ones that we're going to avoid. Our equity and DSA is canvassing and registering, so we're going to take care of those other homes on the street. But we're going to avoid the ones that meet the community trend of political hostility, and they just so happen to have campaign signages in their front yard.
So there are examples as well of individuals where there were no Trump signs, there were no Harris-Biden signs, there are no signs at all, and your teams face hostility, and y'all made the exact same decision to move on.
Yes, sir. So
when you look at how Republicans and MAGA is trying to play this as, she skipped the Trump folk, how do you respond to that?
I respond to it in the same fashion that I'm going to respond to you now. If you greet any of our team members with hostility or aggression, we will de-escalate and disengage and move on. We cannot take that risk to deal with that type of behavior.
This makes me incredibly angry. Because what Roland Martin is trying to do here is trying to say, we don't discriminate against Trump people as long as they're not being with hostility or what have you, right? But the lady just said that the Trump signs usually are the trend of being violent, right? So therefore, if you have a Trump sign out on your property, we're going to avoid you because you have this so-called trend that you are violent, so we're just going to avoid you. But she didn't say anything about how the Kamala Harris signs, we're going to avoid those. So they're trying to take something that the Trump signs are violent, and say that we're not discriminating against them, but you literally are. You're trying to save your ass, lady, when in reality it's not working, because you just lied right now. You literally just said the Trump signs are the ones that are the warning signs of being hostile. So therefore, what you're going to do is that you're going to avoid the ones that are a trend, aka the Trump signs, and avoid those. But any of the houses that don't have a Trump sign or even if it has a Kamala Harris sign, we're going to go to because they're not deemed as threats or hostile. That's literally what you just said. So you are avoiding Trump signs because of the trend, when not all Trump people or all Trump supporters are violent people. Now, could there have been some violent Trump supporters or some violent people on that side of the aisle? Yes, there might have been, all right? I'm not going to disagree with that. However, you cannot label an entire group of people that is saying that, all these people have these Trump signs out, that we're going to avoid them because there is a so-called trend that they're violent. That's insane. That means you're discriminating against them because they have a Trump sign and not helping them. So if they, say for instance, there is a Trump sign, right? And these people need food. You are going to avoid them because, quote unquote, the trend is that they're violent. That's what you just said. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Let's replay that again.
homes left.
Right.
So
we will canvass the ones that do not have the community trend of with the Trump campaign's signage and let it go. If any of those residents come outside that have the Trump campaign signage and they say, "Hey, I want to register," we'll welcome them arms. We will let you register. Great, wonderful. But we will not subject our people to continuous verbal abuse or hostile encounters.
So again, she said that we're not going to continue the verbal abuse or hostile encounter from the Trump supporters, right? Or from the Trump signage. That's what she said. So we have a problem here. So again, as I said, these people are actively discriminating against Trump supporters. Roland Martin, by the way, is trying to make it to where like, oh, well, we don't discriminate against them just because they're hostile. No, you're choosing to avoid them because they're Trump supporters. Because they have Trump paraphernalia or any other type of signage because they're trending violent, and that's why you're voting them. When not all Trump supporters are like this. So she's doomed. She's cooked. She should go to jail, and FEMA should be investigated immediately and probably abolished. So that's where we're going with this. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Please guys share. As always, take care my friends.